This is Clive Palmer. Clive is an Australian politician and businessman, but we're not here to talk about that. Palmer has an interest in football, or as it's called in Australia, soccer. And on the 6th of June 2008, Clive Palmer got to own a football team. Clive and the FFA made an agreement to introduce Gold Coast United into the A-League. It was an exciting time for sports fans living in the Gold Coast. The Titans had joined the NRL a year ago, while the Suns were a few years from their inclusion in the AFL. And now the city had an A-League team. With a rich owner and an excited city, everything seemed like it would go great for Gold Coast United. So why did they get kicked out of the A-League after 3 seasons? The A-League's first season was in 2005-06 as a replacement to the demised NSL. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Australia's national team, the Socceroos, qualified for the World Cup for the first time in 32 years midway through the season. This drummed up a nice viewership for the A-League. The average attendance for games over the season was 10,000 and 41,689 people went to the grand final match between Sydney FC and the Central Coast Mariners. The A-League was on the right track. Clive Palmer saw this and wanted in on it. His first attempt was to start a team called Gold Coast Galaxy FC in March 2008, but his entrance was denied as the current 8 teams were against a 9-team league. It was around this time that Palmer sold 10% each of the then semi-professional club to 3 of his friends in Victoria, as he did not expect the club to join the pros. However, 3 days later, his submission was accepted, as local relative Fred Taplin had started his own team, the North Queensland Thunder. The Thunder and Gold Coast United were both accepted into the comp, making it a 10-team league. Palmer was now no longer the full owner of the club, but he recovered and decided to invest himself into this. Gold Coast had about 6 months to prepare a team before it would make its professional debut. The team would continue to play in Queensland's Amateur League until then. United wasted no time assembling a strong side. Former Queensland manager Murren Bleiberg would stand in the dugout, while the playing side was upgraded with experienced goalkeeper Scott Higgins and Brazilian attacking midfielder Felipe both joining the team. Clive Palmer then announced that his squad had what it took to go undefeated in their first ever season in the A-League. Okay. This is where things get slightly murky. The FFA had decided to delay the expansion of Gold Coast United by a year. This won't be the first time the FFA and Clive Palmer disagree, by the way. Due to the delay, all the signed contracts were declared null and void, as the team wasn't professional. This resulted in Felipe leaving the club without playing in a single game, though Bleiberg and Higgins still stayed around. I couldn't find the NSL results anywhere for the Gold Coast 2009 season, but let's just assume they did well. United's long-awaited entrance lived up to the hype. Clive Palmer managed to get the rights to host home matches at Robina Stadium, an arena that can hold 27,400 people, making it the 4th largest stadium in the A-League. The side had made exciting signings, the biggest being Jess Van Straten, who had played at European giants Juventus the season prior. Jason Collina also joined from PSV, a side who had just played in the Champions League, while Palmer also raided through other A-League sides, bringing in players from Wellington, Newcastle, Adelaide, the Mariners, Melbourne Victory, and Brisbane Roar. United even pulled in Shane Smeltzer of Wellington, who had won the A-League's best player in the former season and was the league's top scorer with 12 goals. Incredibly, the team went undefeated throughout 10 pre-season games, with 3 5-0 victories against different opponents, victories against fellow A-League sides North Queensland Fury and Perth Glory, and even a 2-1 win against Premier League side Fulham. United then took this form with them into their first ever A-League game. In a Queensland derby against Brisbane Roar, United won 3-1, with Shane Smeltz, Jason Collina and Robson Elvis de Silva scoring the club's first 3 professional goals in their history. Against another Queensland team, the North Queensland Fury, Smeltz scored 4 goals in a 5-0 win, which was the first home game played at Robina Stadium for United. You could just feel something brewing with the team, and the fans loved every minute of it. The rest of the season had its ups and downs. United still got results, but had their off days as well, including a 6-0 loss to the Wellington Phoenix and a 4-0 loss to Melbourne Victory. Still, the team persevered. It actually had a chance to finish as the minor premiers, being equal on top of the table with Melbourne Victory, with only 2 games left to play. Unfortunately, losses to Wellington and the Fury put Gold Coast in a disappointing 3rd, missing out on the AFC Champions League, as well as the double chance the top 2 teams get. That double chance would have been handy for United, as they crashed out in week 1 of the finals to the Newcastle Jets on penalties. But despite their end-of-season collapse, things were looking great for United. Shane Smeltz was the most dangerous striker in the league, with an incredible 19 goals to win his 2nd Golden Boot in a row. The defence had great players like Michael Thwaite, Bas van der Brink and Christian Rees, while Brazilian duo Anderson and Robson pulled strings in midfield. It wasn't quite the undefeated team that their owner had bragged about 12 months ago, but still looked like it would go far in the future. And then Clive Palmer sold the team. Well, he didn't. Those rumours eventually broke down. But it made fans nervous. Sure, Palmer made stupid overconfident takes and was unliked by pretty much everyone, but he was also the wealthiest man in Queensland, and him leaving would put the club at risk of folding. But when Palmer announced that he would remain majority owner of the club, he once again got busy in the transfer market. Bruce Ajite signed a 3-year deal with the team, while attacking midfielder Peter Perchtol was loaned in for a year. The problem was that there were many clubs chasing Shane Smeltz's signature. including teams in Europe. Eventually, the Kiwi striker was signed by Shandong Luneng in China on an undisclosed fee. After passing his medical, however, Speltz changed his mind on living in China. There was talk of him returning to Gold Coast, but he instead signed a contract in Turkey with Gençler Birliği SK. But even without Speltz, United still held up strong. Yes, it was ugly football, with only one win before December having a higher margin than one goal. But a 3-0 win against Melbourne Heart and a 2-0 win against Wellington Phoenix before Christmas showed that Gold Coast might have what it took to go all the way. However, United didn't win any of their next 5 matches, and also lost Peter Perchold after only 10 games over a disagreement in his contract. Then Shane Speltz came back after 6 months in Turkey on a free transfer. No, seriously, it happened.
Hey, how y'all doing?
The return of Speltz couldn't have come at a better time for United. They won their next game against North Queensland 4-0, with Speltz scoring a goal in the 52nd minute, and then beat the Newcastle Jets 5-1 a couple of games later, with Speltz scoring once again. Gold Coast United had a shot to qualify for the double chance, but once again, they blew it away at the end of the season, only picking up 4 points from a possible 15. United knew they had to find form in the finals, as a repeat of last year's early exit would have been terrible. Luckily, they did. In the first semi-final against Melbourne Victory, United defended strongly throughout the entire game, before centre-back Dino Djurjevic headed home the late winner in the 91st minute. Gold Coast had their first ever finals win, and the fans were laughing at it. The next week in their second semi-final, they travelled to South Australia to play Adelaide United. Shane Speltz gave Gold Coast the lead in the 38th minute, before Adelaide scored 2 goals in 13 minutes, which gave the home side a 2-1 lead with 20 minutes left. Brewster Gite then pulled one back 2 minutes later, before Shane Speltz stuck in a penalty in the net to give Gold Coast their second ever finals win, and put them 1 game away from the grand final. Gold Coast's preliminary final match against the Mariners was a tight 4 game with not too many chances. However, it was Central Coast who broke the deadlock, as Adam Kwasnick scored the winner to end Gold Coast's championship dreams. It was a tough loss to take, but things were still positive for United. They were 1 game away from the championship, they had the best attack in the league, things were looking fine. And then Clive Palmer sold the team. You beginning to see a pattern here? Once again, Palmer was interested in selling Gold Coast. He actually got close to doing it too, but the deal fell through. Meanwhile, the players had enough. With all the unsettling rumours around the club, squad members submitted transfer requests in order to leave the sinking ship of a football team. Shane Speltz went to Perth Glory and didn't come back this time. Brewster Gite went to Adelaide United after only 1 season in Gold Coast, and Anderson was more willing to play for a team in Cypriot than stay in Gold Coast. It was bad. The season got underway, and Gold Coast, who made the preliminary final the season prior, picked up 5 points in 8 games and 4 losses in a row. The bright spot of the season, if you could call it that, was the Christmas period, where Gold Coast got consecutive wins against Adelaide and Brisbane, while also picking up 0-0 draws against Sydney and Central Coast before and after the 2 wins. The luck would run out as Gold Coast went winless in their next 8 games. This takes us up to February the 17th, 2012. Gold Coast has an away match against Melbourne Heart, and club captain Michael Thwaite was injured. You'd assume vice captain Christian Rees would take the captain's armband, right? Nope. Mitch Cooper was a 17-year-old kid playing for Gold Coast United's youth team. He was watching TV after playing an away match for the under-18s team in Newcastle when Clive Palmer told him he'd be making a senior debut on the weekend in Melbourne, and that he'd leave the team out. At training the next day, manager Maron Bleiberg told Cooper what the club's owner meant. Clive Palmer had picked a 17-year-old kid to captain the team on his debut. Yes, this all actually happened. See, this was Clive Palmer's problem. He didn't care about being a good owner, but when it came time to pick a captain or do something else outside of his job description, yeah, he'd do that. Gold Coast lost that match 1-0. What happened off the pitch was the final nail in the coffin for Gold Coast. In his pre-match interview, Maron Bleiberg told the media that it was more of a symbolic move, and that the more experienced players would still lead on the pitch. Clive Palmer, however, did not make the move symbolically, and suspended Bleiberg for the upcoming match, instead letting assistant manager Mike Morphy manage the side. A few days after the match, Bleiberg resigned from his role as manager, saying that Palmer's actions had hurt him, and he could no longer work with him. And without a proper manager and an uncommitted owner, you can probably see where this is going. Not long after Bleiberg's departure, Palmer officially gave up on Gold Coast. He couldn't sell the team, but he managed to simply depart his role. If you remember back to the start of the video, I mentioned that Palmer had actually sold 30% of the club's ownership to three of his mates. However, they failed to keep the club alive. And on the 29th of February, the A-League pulled Gold Coast United's licence. United had 4 games left for the season, which they were still allowed to play. The first 2 matches were away games against Wellington and Newcastle, where United picked up a 2-0 loss and a 1-1 draw respectively. The last 2 matches were at home, where the remaining loyal Gold Coast United fans piled into Robina Stadium, something they had done every other week for the last 2 years. On the 18th of March 2012, Gold Coast United kicked off their second last game in existence against Perth. Amazingly, against a strong Perth Glory side, United did incredibly well. In the 7th minute of the match, Zach Anderson scored to give the home team a 1-0 lead. When Perth left back Dean Heffernan got sent off, United took advantage. James Brown doubled United's advantage with an 83rd minute goal, before scoring again in stoppage time. Gold Coast United 3, Perth Glory 0. A week later, Gold Coast were ready to play their last ever game against crosstown rivals Brisbane Roar. The stadium had been 3/4 shut for the whole second half of the season due to a fan throwing a flare, but United still had their second biggest turnout, as 6,102 fans walked into Robina Stadium. Brisbane Roar were the second best team in the league that season and were only 2 points off first, but one thing came clear to them quickly: United weren't going down without a fight. United got the first chance of the game as Daniel Bowes ran on top of a through ball, and this happened.
It's time for Daniel Bowes!
United were 1-0 up. Scenes then broke out at Robina Stadium. After such a tough month, and a tough 3 years for Gold Coast fans, they finally were celebrating. United tried to hold on, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. Nicholas Fitzgerald got an equaliser at the 58th minute for the Roar. It looked to be a draw until heartbreak occurred. George Lambatterita struck a ball into the top corner that no one could stop. Brisbane Roar 2, Gold Coast United 1. Gold Coast fans were shattered, but still stayed around to clap their players off the pitch one last time. In case you were wondering, this wasn't the last time we saw Gold Coast United. In 2017, United returned to the NSL, the semi-professional league they played in before the Clive Palmer era. They finished 8th in their most recent season, and in 2019, Gold Coast legend Shane Smelt came out for retirement to play for United. There's always been a bit of discussion about Gold Coast returning to the A-League, but I don't see it. So where did things go wrong for United? It's obviously easy to place the blame on Clive Palmer, and it's true, he does deserve some of it. But here's the thing, Clive Palmer was not a bad football owner. Sure, he made his mistakes, but to be able to sign players from top European clubs, as well as the Brazilian partnership in Anderson and Robson, and one of the greatest A-League players of all time in Shane Smelts, was brilliant. The problem with Palmer was that he only saw United as a business, not a club. He didn't care about revenue the team was making because he was already the richest man in the state. Palmer saw United purely as a business job which he could dump whenever he felt like it, which he clearly did quite a bit. But if only United could have taken that next step and made the AFC Champions League. The money and popularity that comes with international matches is game changing, and it's something United would have experienced had it not been for those end of season collapses. But United had something special, you couldn't deny it. And if a few things went differently, then United could still win the league today. It truly is one of the greatest what-if stories of all time in the A-League. That's all for today guys, I'm going to be making much more football content over the next month, so make sure to subscribe and I will see you next time.